"You'll never have to fight alone again," the cowboy said, after she fought 3 men by herself. The sun was a harsh, burning disk over the dusty plains of Iridion. 7, a lonely frontier world where life was as rough as the sandstorms that rolled across the horizon. Settlements were few and far between, scattered clusters of metal and rock that clung desperately to survival. Here, only the toughest survived, and even they had to keep one eye on the horizon at all times. Rhea Kincaid moved like a shadow over the cracked surface of a dry riverbed. Her boots kicked up clouds of red dust, but she didn't mind. The outpost she was heading toward had been abandoned for decades, or so the records said, but rumors of hidden supplies, fuel, tools, weapons, made it worth the risk. She adjusted the strap of her utility pack, checking the pulse of her energy blade and the charge on her plasma pistol. In this world, being unprepared was the same as being dead. Rhea had never been one to ask for help. The galaxy had taught her that lesson early. She had learned to rely on herself, to trust no one except her instincts and her weapons. And so far it had worked. She had survived encounters that would have flattened most people like bugs. But that did not make her reckless. Every step, every movement was calculated. The outpost came into view, a cluster of rusted metal buildings half swallowed by the sand. The wind moaned through the empty halls, carrying the scent of rust and decay. Rhea slowed her pace and crouched behind a fallen metal beam. Her eyes scanned the area. Nothing. Just the wind and the empty broken windows staring back at her. "Too quiet," she muttered to herself. Her voice was low, sharp, carrying the authority of someone who had faced death too many times to fear it. She stepped closer, her boots crunching on broken gravel. Then came the movement. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, their shapes jagged, armored, and scavenged plates. They moved like predators, and the glint of their weapons told her all she needed to know. Mercenaries. And not just any mercenaries. These were the kind who killed for sport, who left no witnesses. Rhea's fingers brushed the grip of her plasma pistol. She didn't hesitate. The first mercenary lunged, and she sidestepped, letting his momentum carry him forward before twisting her wrist and sending him sprawling with the hilt of her energy blade. Sparks flew as metal clanged against metal. The second came from the left, swinging a heavy metal rod. Rhea ducked, rolled, and kicked, sending him stumbling into the wall of the outpost. She didn't stop. One strike, one kick, one precise movement after another. Her body moved like it had a mind of its own, trained to respond before the brain could even react. The third mercenary paused for a fraction too long. A fatal mistake. Rhea exploited it with a sudden burst, a combination of her pistol and blade that left him sprawled in the sand, groaning. She stepped back, breathing hard, dust coating her skin. The 3 were down, none of them dead, but all of them incapacitated. She had fought 3 men by herself, and she hadn't even broken a sweat, though her heart still pounded with the rush of adrenaline. For a moment, she allowed herself a small smile. "Piece of cake," she muttered, brushing sand off her jacket. But the wind carried a new sound. A hum, steady, deliberate. Something large was approaching. Rhea tensed. She wasn't expecting anyone else. And yet, from the horizon, a figure emerged. Not running, not hiding, but riding straight toward her, confident, steady. A cowboy. Only this was no ordinary cowboy. His hoverbike shimmered under the scorching sun, powered by some kind of solar array, its engines whispering instead of roaring. A wide-brimmed hat shadowed his face, and long coattails fluttered behind him. He looked like he had stepped out of another era entirely, a relic of old Earth, yet somehow perfectly at home on this barren planet. He stopped a few meters away, boots crunching softly on the sand as he dismounted. One hand rested near a holster at his hip, though he made no move to draw. Instead, his other hand tipped the brim of his hat in a casual gesture, as if greeting an old friend. "You all right there, ma'am?" he asked, voice smooth, calm, not a trace of fear, not a hint of doubt. Rhea's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" she demanded, keeping her hand on her blade. "The name's Cassian Ryder," he said, a small, confident smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Cass. I ride the frontier, help where I can. Saw you had a little trouble with some friends of mine." Her brow lifted. "Trouble with your friends?" He nodded. "They work for the Iron Hand. Thought I'd check if you were alone." Rhea tightened her grip on her pistol. "And you are?" "Just a cowboy," he said, shrugging. "But I don't like seeing someone fight 3 men alone and wonder why." "Not anymore." Rhea blinked. No one had ever offered her help before, not like this. Most people either wanted her dead or wanted something from her. She studied him carefully, looking for a trap. There was none that she could see. No sign of deception in the way he moved, the way he spoke, or the calm confidence in his eyes. "Why me?" she asked, voice quieter this time, almost curious. "Because you're strong, and because strong people make enemies," Cass replied. "Enemies that are bigger than 3 men in the sand." Rhea said nothing for a long moment. She wanted to stay alone, to rely on herself. But something in the way he spoke, in the steady calm he carried, stirred a small spark of curiosity. She wanted to hear more. Before she could respond, her wrist-comm device beeped urgently. A message flashed on the screen. "Warning. Mercenary squad detected in your sector. Movement indicates a larger operation approaching. Evacuation advised." Rhea's heart skipped. That was no routine patrol. That was a warning. Something big was coming, and she would have little time to prepare. Cass noticed the screen. "Looks like my suspicions were right," he said. "You're going to need more than just quick reflexes this time." Rhea exhaled slowly, dust and tension escaping together. "All right," she said, gripping her weapons. "Let's see what we're dealing with." The two of them moved toward the abandoned outpost together, a silent agreement forming. Rhea still kept her distance, but she wasn't alone anymore. That was new. Strange, but not unwelcome. As they approached the main building, shadows shifted in the corners. Rhea felt the weight of the unknown pressing in. Her instincts screamed caution, but Cass simply moved with calm confidence, scanning the perimeter with eyes that had seen far too many battles to be surprised. "Something tells me this is just the beginning," he said quietly, almost to himself. Rhea nodded, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't argue. They entered the building, weapons ready. The air was thick with dust, rust, and a faint metallic tang. The walls bore the marks of struggle, old signs of fights long past, but also evidence of recent activity. Footprints, scuff marks, and a faint chemical smell told a story she had learned to read. Someone had been here recently. "They're not gone," she said, voice low, eyes sharp. "Not completely." Cass nodded, glancing around the room. "Then we find them, together." And in that moment, Rhea realized something she had never admitted before. Sometimes, even the strongest needed an ally. Someone to watch their back, someone to share the fight, and maybe, just maybe, she had found that in a cowboy who rode a hoverbike across the burning sands of Iridian. 7. Outside, the wind howled, carrying the promise of challenges yet to come. Rhea and Cass stood ready, 2 lone warriors no longer alone, facing a universe that was bigger, meaner, and far more dangerous than they had imagined. And for the first time in a long while, Rhea felt a flicker of hope. The outpost smelled of rust, dust, and old machinery, but beneath the layers of neglect, something was stirring. Rhea and Cass moved cautiously through the broken hallways, the sunlight from shattered windows casting jagged shadows across the floor. Every step echoed in the emptiness, every sound amplified, making it impossible to ignore even the faintest movement. Rhea led the way, her senses sharp, her energy blade ready. Cass followed silently, hands hovering near his holstered revolvers, scanning every corner with calm precision. The outpost's silence was deceptive. She could feel it in her chest. Something, or someone, was waiting. "I don't like this," Rhea muttered, crouching behind a rusted conveyor belt. "It's too quiet." Cass gave a small shrug. "Quiet usually means trouble is coming." "You make it sound like you've done this before." "I've seen my share of trouble," he admitted, "and I've learned it's better to expect it than be surprised." Their conversation ended as a faint whirring sound began behind them. Rhea spun, her blade drawn, and saw 3 more figures stepping from the shadows. Not mercenaries like the last 3, these were something else entirely. Sleek, black-armored drones, moving in perfect unison. Their red sensor eyes scanned the room, searching, calculating, unflinching. Rhea's pulse quickened. "Drones," she hissed. "Not just men this time." Cass raised an eyebrow. "Looks like the Iron Hand isn't just sending his muscle. He's serious about this." Before she could react, the drones fired, their energy pulses burning the air around them. Rhea ducked and rolled, narrowly avoiding the blast. Sparks flew as her blade deflected one of the shots. The sound of metal against metal rang out like a bell. "Cover me!" Rhea shouted. She darted forward, weaving between the drones, striking with precise, rapid movements. Cass provided backup, his revolvers flaring with blue energy as he fired, taking down one drone after another with deadly accuracy. Despite their skill, the drones were relentless. They moved faster than humans, anticipating attacks with inhuman precision. Rhea leapt onto a support beam, swinging her blade in a wide arc, cutting a drone's arm clean off. Cass rolled under the sparks, firing twice in quick succession, and a second drone exploded in a flash of orange light. When the battle ended, the drones were destroyed, but the air was thick with smoke and ozone. Rhea's chest heaved as she wiped sweat from her brow. Cass stood beside her, calm as ever, his coat singed but otherwise unharmed. "Not bad," he said with a smirk. "You've got skills, I'll give you that." Rhea blinked, catching her breath. "Skills? I'm still alive because of luck, not compliments." Cass laughed softly. "Luck favors the prepared. You were prepared." They moved deeper into the outpost, following tracks that led to a hidden room beneath a collapsed wall. Inside, crates of weapons, energy cells, and stolen supplies were stacked high. Maps of nearby settlements, marked with strange symbols, were pinned to the walls. Rhea's eyes narrowed. "The Iron Hand is planning something bigger than simple raids. Look at this." She pointed to a map showing a cluster of settlements connected by secret paths. "He's mapping out the whole region. Looks like he's building an army. Mercenaries, drones, maybe even more. He wants control over everything in this sector." Rhea's jaw tightened. "Then we stop him. Together." Cass raised an eyebrow. "Together? You don't usually do partnerships." Rhea shot him a sharp glance. "I don't. But you've got something I don't. Experience, strategy, and apparently the ability to survive drones without breaking a sweat. I'll take what I can get." They began planning their next move. The Iron Hand's operation needed to be stopped before it reached the nearby settlement of Cinder's Hollow, a small community of humans and aliens struggling to survive on the edge of the desert. Rhea and Cass knew that if the settlement fell, hundreds would be captured, enslaved, or worse. As they spoke, the outpost trembled. A distant rumble echoed through the halls, sending dust cascading from the ceiling. Rhea froze. "That's no quake," she said. "Something's coming." Cass peeked outside through a shattered window. His eyes narrowed. Reinforcements. More mercenaries. And they're fast. Rhea clenched her fists. "Then we don't wait. We move now." Together they left the outpost, moving across the dunes toward Cinder's Hollow. Cass led with calm confidence, knowing the terrain and reading the wind like it was a language. Rhea followed, scanning for any sign of ambush. As they rode, Cass shared fragments of his past, a life spent chasing rogue AI, protecting settlements, and wandering frontier worlds. "You've been alone a long time, haven't you?" he asked casually, glancing at her. Rhea didn't answer at first. Memories of betrayals, fights, and losses flashed through her mind. Finally she spoke. "Long enough to know that trusting someone usually gets you killed." Cass nodded. "I get that. But sometimes someone watching your back makes all the difference. Not everyone is out to get you." She looked at him, and for the first time she felt a flicker of trust. Maybe he was different. Maybe she could rely on him. They reached the outskirts of Cinder's Hollow as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the settlement in golden light. Smoke curled from chimneys, and settlers moved cautiously through the streets, aware that danger could strike at any moment. Rhea and Cass approached the town's leader, Mayor Tanis, a tall, weathered man with a mechanical arm. After a tense introduction, they explained the threat of the Iron Hand's army. "The Iron Hand," Mayor Tanis said, frowning. "We've heard rumors, but they never come this close." "Not yet." "He's closer than you think," Rhea said, "and he's sending mercenaries and drones to take this town. If we don't act fast, you won't have a town left." The mayor hesitated, glancing at the settlers. "You two alone? Against an army?" Cass stepped forward. "We won't be alone for long, but we need your trust. We'll help prepare the town, set traps, and train anyone willing to fight." Reluctantly, the mayor agreed. Rhea and Cass began organizing the settlement's defenses. They turned the town into a fortress. Barricades were built from scrap metal, traps were laid in alleyways, and energy turrets salvaged from the outpost were positioned on rooftops. Rhea taught settlers how to use weapons efficiently, while Cass shared tactics to outsmart attackers. Over the next few hours, Rhea and Cass grew closer, their partnership strengthening as they worked together. Rhea admired Cass's calm presence under pressure, and Cass respected her courage and quick thinking. Despite the tension, small jokes and shared glances eased the weight of their task. As night fell, the first sounds of the Iron Hand's approaching forces reached them. The faint clatter of hooves on sand, the hum of drones in the distance. Rhea and Cass took their positions, ready to face whatever came next. "Are you ready for this?" Cass asked quietly. Rhea checked her blade, her pistol, and the small energy grenade strapped to her belt. "I was born ready," she said, though her eyes betrayed a hint of nerves. Cass gave a faint smile. "Good. Because this is only the beginning." The night was quiet for a moment, almost peaceful. But the wind carried a promise of violence, of danger, and of battles that would test both their strength and their trust in one another. Together they waited, side by side, ready to defend Cinder's Hollow. Two warriors, once strangers, now allies in a fight that was bigger than either of them. And in the darkness, under the twin moons of Iridian, 7, a bond was forming, one that neither bullets nor betrayal could easily break. Night had fully settled over Cinder's Hollow, but the town was far from quiet. Lanterns flickered in the streets, casting long shadows over barricades and rooftops. The settlers moved with nervous purpose, carrying weapons, reinforcing walls, and whispering to each other. Their fear was palpable, but so was their determination. They were ready to fight, and thanks to Rhea and Cass, they had a chance. Rhea crouched atop a rooftop, scanning the desert beyond the town's perimeter. Her energy blade rested at her side, and her pistol was charged. The wind carried a faint metallic hum, and her sharp eyes caught movement in the distance. Drones, dozens of them, glinting under the moonlight, moving in precise formation. "They're coming," she said, her voice low but steady. Cass joined her, standing just behind. His hoverbike was parked nearby, ready if they needed to retreat or chase. "Looks like the Iron Hand didn't waste time," he said. "Get ready." Rhea took a deep breath. "We've prepared as much as we can. The rest is luck and skill." Cass nodded, and a little trust, he added, glancing at her. Rhea met his gaze, and for a moment the tension eased. She was no longer alone. The first wave hit with the sound of hooves and the whir of drones. Mercenaries rode cybernetic beasts, their eyes glowing red under helmets, while drones hovered above, firing energy pulses at the barricades. The settlers fired back with energy rifles and makeshift weapons, some missing, some hitting their marks. Rhea dropped from the rooftop, landing with a soft thud behind a barricade. She fired her pistol, taking out a drone that had slipped past the outer walls. Sparks flew as it crashed into a pile of scrap metal. She didn't pause. Another drone approached, and she lunged forward, swinging her blade to disable its targeting sensors. Cass moved with precision, his revolvers flashing blue with energy as he took down a mercenary before the man could reach the barricade. His calm, methodical approach inspired the settlers, giving them confidence to fight with more skill and less fear. The battle raged across the town. Rhea and Cass moved through the chaos like shadows, covering each other, communicating with small gestures. Every drone destroyed, every mercenary incapacitated, brought them closer to the heart of the Iron Hand's operation. "Watch the alley!" Rhea shouted as she spotted 2 mercenaries trying to flank the town. She sprinted toward them, flipping over a crate and firing a quick shot. One fell, the other barely dodged, stumbling backward into a trap Rhea had helped set. Cass joined her, firing a precise shot that sent the second mercenary crashing into a pile of debris. "Nice work," he said, glancing at her with a hint of a smile. Rhea smirked despite the chaos. "Don't get used to compliments." But the battle was far from over. From the shadows of the western ridge, a figure appeared. The Iron Hand's lieutenant, a towering figure with cybernetic enhancements covering his body. His red eyes glowed as he surveyed the town, and his voice boomed through a speaker embedded in his chest. "Cinder's Hollow will fall. No one can stop the Iron Hand." Rhea's jaw tightened. "Then we'd prove him wrong." The lieutenant advanced, his mechanical arms slicing through barricades with terrifying strength. Settlers scattered, some frozen with fear, others running to fight back. Cass moved beside Rhea, his revolver's aim steady. "I'll handle him," he said. "You cover the drones." Rhea nodded, darting between buildings, taking out drones that tried to flank from above. Sparks and energy blasts lit the night sky like fireworks. The sound of metal clashing against metal, the screams of mercenaries and the shouts of settlers filled the air, creating a symphony of chaos that Rhea had learned to navigate. Cass faced the lieutenant head-on, dodging a massive swing and firing in quick succession. His revolvers glowed blue, the energy cutting through the air with precision. The lieutenant's cybernetic arms blocked most attacks, but Cass's strategy forced him to overreach, creating openings. Rhea spotted another wave of drones approaching from the south. Without hesitation, she leapt onto the nearest roof, her blade slicing through 2 drones mid-air. Sparks rained down as they crashed into the streets below. Settlers cheered as their morale lifted, seeing that victory was possible. The lieutenant roared in frustration, swinging a heavy arm toward Cass. Cass rolled under it, firing twice, hitting a weak point at the back of the machine. Sparks flew, and the lieutenant staggered. Rhea seized the opportunity, rushing forward and landing a strike with her blade on the lieutenant's exposed side. He faltered but didn't fall. "Cass!" Rhea shouted, dodging a blast from a drone behind her. "I've got him!" Cass yelled. Together, they coordinated, her agility and precision paired with his firepower and strategy. The lieutenant swung, but Rhea ducked, slicing a cable that powered his arm enhancements. Sparks erupted, and he collapsed to one knee. The settlers rallied, firing on the remaining drones and mercenaries. The tide of battle turned. The Iron Hand's forces were pushed back, retreating toward the desert beyond the town. Rhea and Cass stood atop the rubble, breathing heavily, their weapons still ready. The lieutenant lay incapacitated, and the town remained intact. For the first time that night, silence fell over Cinder's Hollow, broken only by the settlers' cheers. Cass looked at Rhea, sweat and dust coating their faces. "We did it," he said softly. Rhea allowed herself a brief smile. "For now. But this is just one battle." She was right. The Iron Hand was still out there, and now he knew she and Cass were a real threat. But for tonight, they had survived. They had defended the town, and together they had proven that even against overwhelming odds, courage, skill, and teamwork could turn the tide. Mayor Tanis approached, his mechanical arm glinting under the moonlight. "I don't know how to thank you two," he said. "Cinder's Hollow would be ashes, if not for you." Rhea shook her head. "We didn't do it for thanks. We did it because it had to be done." Cass nodded in agreement. "And because nobody should face the frontier alone." The settlers began repairing the damage, tending to the wounded, and fortifying their defenses. Rhea and Cass helped where they could, though both were exhausted. The adrenaline that had kept them sharp during the fight was fading, leaving a bone-deep tiredness that neither had felt in years. As they rested atop the barricades, looking out over the town, Rhea spoke quietly. "You know, I didn't expect to care about anyone else. Not like this." Cass glanced at her, a soft smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Sometimes the people you meet in the most unexpected places remind you why you fight." Rhea considered his words. For so long she had been alone, surviving only by her own strength. But now she realized that having someone by her side didn't make her weak. It made her stronger. And in the heart of a frontier world filled with danger, that strength was the difference between life and death. The night deepened and the wind carried the scent of sand and smoke. Somewhere in the distance, the Iron Hand would regroup, planning his next move. But for now, Cinder's Hollow was safe. Rhea and Cass stood together, 2 warriors side by side, knowing that more challenges lay ahead. But they also knew that for the first time in a long time, they were not facing the darkness alone. The frontier was dangerous, unpredictable, and often cruel. But in that moment, under the twin moons of Iridian, 7, hope burned brighter than the fires of battle. And for Rhea and Cass, that hope was the beginning of something new, a bond forged in the chaos of war, a partnership that would see them through every storm the galaxy could throw at them. The desert wind on Iridian. 7 carried a chill that felt unusual under the twin moons. Rhea and Cass rode across the dunes, their hoverbikes kicking up clouds of sand. The battle at Cinder's Hollow had been won, but it had only delayed the Iron Hand. Both of them knew it, and the warning was clear. The real fight was coming. Rhea adjusted her jacket and checked her energy blade, the weapon's glow cutting through the dim light. "He's not going to wait long," she said. "If he's smart, he'll strike before the settlements recover." Cass nodded, scanning the horizon. "Smart or not, he underestimates us. He thinks we're just a couple of wanderers. He doesn't know we've learned from every move he's made." They had tracked the Iron Hand to a volcanic planet called Ashvale, a barren world of molten rivers and jagged cliffs. It was the perfect hideout for someone with an army of mercenaries and drones, but Rhea and Cass were prepared. They had planned their approach carefully, analyzing every possible route and trap. "This is it," Cass said quietly. "Time to end this." Rhea's jaw tightened. No mistakes. Not this time. The surface of Ashvale was harsh. Rivers of molten lava split the jagged landscape, steam rising in clouds that burned exposed skin. The sky was dark, filled with ash and smoke, turning the twin moons into dim pale lights. Despite the hostile terrain, the Iron Hand's fortress loomed ahead, a mass of metal and wires atop a cliff, guarded by drones and mercenaries. Rhea and Cass dismounted their hover bikes at a safe distance and crouched behind a rocky outcrop. "We split up," Rhea said. "I take the northern drones. You handle the mercenaries near the entrance. We meet inside." Cass glanced at her, his calm demeanor unshaken. "You sure about this?" Rhea smirked. "After everything we've survived?" "I'm sure." With that, they moved silently across the jagged ground. Rhea darted from rock to rock, taking out drones with precise shots from her pistol and quick slashes of her energy blade. Sparks flew as she disabled each mechanical enemy, leaving no trace of their movement. Cass approached the entrance, his revolvers glowing as he fired on the advancing mercenaries. His aim was flawless, his movements fluid and confident. The mercenaries tried to flank him, but he anticipated every move, forcing them into traps he had spotted earlier. Each enemy that fell brought them closer to the fortress's inner chambers. Inside the fortress, alarms blared, red lights flashing across metal walls. The Iron Hand had anticipated some resistance, but not this level of coordination. Rhea moved quickly through the corridors, her footsteps silent, her eyes scanning for any sign of the lieutenant or hidden drones. She turned a corner and came face to face with a squad of elite drones, their armor black and polished, their energy weapons humming. Without hesitation, Rhea leapt into action, her blade spinning in wide arcs, slicing through the drone's circuits. Sparks and smoke filled the hallway, but she emerged unscathed, her pulse steady. Cass reached the main chamber where the Iron Hand waited, flanked by his lieutenant and several heavily armed mercenaries. The room was massive, filled with metal walkways, pulsing energy conduits, and the faint hum of machinery. "You two again," the Iron Hand growled, his voice amplified by cybernetics. "I expected Cinder's Hollow to stop you. Instead, you followed me here." Rhea and Cass entered together, standing side by side. "Your army's finished," Rhea said. "It ends tonight." The Iron Hand laughed, a cold, mechanical sound. "Foolish? You think two people can stop me?" Cass tilted his head, calm as ever. "We're not two people. We're a team. And we've learned your weaknesses. The battle began." The lieutenant charged at Rhea, his cybernetic arms swinging with deadly force. Rhea dodged, leaping over debris and striking at weak points in the metal armor. Sparks flew with every hit, and the lieutenant staggered, struggling to recover. Cass faced the Iron Hand directly, dodging blasts from his energy weapon while firing back with precision. The two exchanged a deadly dance, parrying and striking, each move calculated. Cass had learned to anticipate the villain's attacks, predicting his strategy through careful observation. Rhea realized the lieutenant was skilled but predictable. She feinted left, then struck right, slicing through a critical joint in his armor. The lieutenant crashed to the ground, sparks shooting from his damaged circuits. He groaned, unable to rise. Cass pressed his advantage against the Iron Hand, dodging a sweeping strike and firing directly at a vulnerable panel on the villain's chest. Sparks erupted, and the Iron Hand roared in frustration, staggering backward. "Now, Rhea!" Cass shouted. Rhea lunged forward, energy blade glowing, striking the final blow. The Iron Hand collapsed, incapacitated but alive. His empire of terror had been shattered, his army defeated, and his plans thwarted. The silence that followed was almost deafening. The fortress was empty except for Rhea, Cass, and the remains of the defeated drones and mercenaries. The heat of the volcanic planet made the air shimmer, but the two warriors stood tall, breathing heavily, yet victorious. Cass lowered his revolvers, glancing at Rhea. "We did it," he said softly. Rhea nodded, a small smile forming. "Together, just like we said." The fortress would be dismantled, and news of the Iron Hand's defeat would spread across the frontier. Settlements would be safer, at least for a time. But more importantly, Rhea and Cass had proven something to themselves. Even in a galaxy filled with danger, they could rely on each other. As they stepped outside, the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Ashvale's sky, still filled with ash and smoke, now shimmered with a pale gold light. The twin moons faded slightly as the sun rose, casting long shadows over the jagged landscape. Cass looked at Rhea. "What now?" Rhea paused, feeling the weight of everything they had been through. "Now," she said quietly, "re-ride. Help settlements, protect the frontier, and make sure no one has to fight alone like we did." Cass smiled, tipping his hat. "Sounds like a plan." You really are something, Rhea Kincaid. And you're not half bad yourself, Rhea replied, a grin spreading across her face. They mounted their hoverbikes and rode across the desert, leaving the fortress behind. The wind whipped around them, carrying the smell of sand, smoke, and a hint of something new, hope. For the first time in years, Rhea felt a sense of purpose beyond survival. She had a partner, a friend, someone who had her back no matter what. As the suns rose higher, the frontier stretched endlessly before them. Jagged cliffs, burning deserts, and distant settlements awaited. Rhea and Cass rode side by side, ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them next. The universe was vast, dangerous, and unpredictable, but together they were unstoppable. And for Rhea Kincaid, the lone bounty hunter who once fought 3 men alone, the promise Cass had given her rang true. You'll never have to fight alone again. With every mile across the frontier, they became more than survivors. They became legends, a pair of warriors who would fight for justice, protect the innocent, and face every danger, together. The twin sons of Iridion, 7 climbed higher, casting long shadows behind them as they rode into the unknown. And somewhere, in the heart of the galaxy, stories of the cowboy and the bounty hunter began to spread, tales of courage, loyalty, and the unbreakable bond between 2 people who chose to fight side by side. For Rhea and Cass, the journey was only beginning. The frontier awaited, full of danger and adventure, but they faced it not as 2 strangers, but as a team. And together there was nothing they could not overcome.